So we've been contemplating the Jagat Utpatti part using the notes done by Saravananji. And in our last session, we concluded, we looked at mainly the T56. Is that right, Saravananji?
Yeah, T57 also, I think we did.
We did T57. Yeah. So today we need to continue from T58 onwards. Yeah. So we have been contemplating using these notes, which are essentially based on the short clips of Prabhuji's day's talk. So let us begin from here then. So before we get started, are there any questions or any points that anybody wants to make before we jump into today's topic of T58? If not, then Saravananji, can we begin with T58?
Maybe we'll go back to T57 to set the context, and then we'll come back.
Yeah, sure, Saravananji. Yeah, over to you.
Yeah, so we are in chapter 3, Jagat Utpatti. And in chapter, so in this chapter, we are trying to understand the world in front of us, and how we have seen, like, in chapter 2 self, like from my point of view, who am I, right? And we concluded as it's Atma, it's not the body, mind, right? So here we are trying to see, okay, if I am Atma, then like, what about the world I see, right? So that's where it started with. Again, we start from the supreme force, Brahman, and from Brahman has so we say that there's only one. So if Brahman is the only one, then and we looked at the characteristics of Brahman as like eternal, unchanging, right? So here, if you look at the world, we always look at it as changing all the time, right? And it doesn't look like blissful all the time. So why is the world like this when it has come from Brahman, right? So that's how we are looking into it, and we see that it has come. The world is from Maya, and Maya is Maya is not different from Brahman, but it's the power of Brahman again. And from Maya, we saw that the three gunas of Maya, which is Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas, which is the potential when it's in equal state, when there is no action, but when that gets disturbed, and that's where, or like from those three gunas, the Panchatatvas, Panchabhutas come, which is Akasha, and from Akasha, Vayu, from Vayu, Agni, from Agni to Jala to Prithvi, right? So in that order, the two which came first, and the reason being, like, each one which came later has the characteristics of all the others, right? So this chapter looks like more technical, I would say. It goes into I think in one way it's like we are saying that it's the world is the appearance, like how the rope appears as snake, right? Now I think this chapter, the way I see is, it's trying to explain, yes, it's appearance, but how is that appearance happening, right? There has to be a way for even that appearance to happen. Like when we see a movie, we say the movie is appearance on the screen, but you still want to explain how that movie is playing, is right. So that's where I see that this chapter tries to explain how all in from this chapter point of view, even this body is part of the jagat, right? So only Atma alone is the self, and everything outside is all we can say that's part of the jagat from the Atma's point of view outside. And like, how is that formed? Right. So so we start with this 3 gunas and then 5 elements, and then if you continue on that, how is that, like, that combination of the gunas and the elements form the various things we see around us. So if you go to T58 here, let's say we start with, okay, 3 gunas, sattva, rajas, tamas, right? And then like we have the 5 elements, right? And very similar to how before you come up with a building, which is the physical form, you have a blueprint which is in the subtle form. So here the physical universe, what we see, has a subtle component as well, right? And that's where we and to be able to, and this body is like a instrument to experience that world outside, right? And if it has to experience, then whatever you see, there has to be a component, equivalent component in this body to be able to experience. For example, we saw that space is one of them, and tattva, and that space has a corresponding power. So in this case, I have put as power, like the space corresponds to hearing, and that hearing equivalent in this body is the ears to be able to hear. It similarly, the air element gives the power of touch, and the way we experience is through the skin, and the fire allows us to see, and the eyes in the body is the one equivalent to that, and water, taste, and the tongue, and the earth, smell, nose, right? So
what is the purpose of this table? So the first one is the tattva, and second one is its manifestation in the physical reality. The second row. What about the third and the fourth?
Yeah. So yeah, I think that I have. If you go down a little bit, yeah. So I have the way I have understood is from the 5 elements get created, and like since the 5 elements came from the 3 gunas, which means each element has the 3 gunas as well, because right, the basic element gives the characteristics to all the derived elements, right? So since the 5 elements Panchatattwas came from the 3 gunas, each element has the 3 gunas, and that's what we are trying to see. How is the 3 gunas of each element formed what? Like each element, the gunas of each element formed what? And what we see is for each guna of this element, so from the sattva guna, the jnanendriyas, the sense organs get created, and then from the rajo guna, the karmendriyas get created, because rajo is related with the action, and sattva is related with knowing ability, right? So if you see all the eyes, ears, they help us to learn, and that comes from the sattva, and the action element comes from the rajas nature. And then so that's what we are showing here, the sattva, right? So the space.
What about tamo? Is there any
Yeah.
similar manifestation of tamo?
Yeah, we will come down. Yeah, the finally the gross body is from the tamasic aspect. Again, when we say the eyes, the physical eyes finally is corresponding to the tamasic, but then the seeing power of the eyes is from the sattva, right? We say that like a person can have good eyes or like good looking eyes, but not necessarily that eyes are functioning, right? That is more subtle, right? Same way we can see the ears, but like you don't know how good the ears are in terms of the hearing power, right? So the physical aspect is coming from the tamasic aspect, right? And that is the process we have learned that as panchikaranam, right? So at the end of the day, if you see, what we see is a mix of the three gunas and the five elements, right? And each guna, and there is an interesting thing. Each sattva aspect of each each tattva has given to the elements, the jnanendriyas and karmendriyas, and then you can put them together. Mix of all sattva is antakarana, manas, buddhi, ahankara, chitta. Similarly, you can mix all the rajas, you are getting the pancha prana, right? So totally what we come to know is like the 24 elements, right? 5 plus 5, 5 jnanendriyas, 5 karmendriyas, 5 pancha prana, right? Pancha prana, so 15, and then like plus 9, plus 4, right? So 19, and then like yeah, we include the 5 elements, 24, right? So maybe we'll stop here. So this is how it goes on to explain how everything we see is nothing but a mix of trigunas and panchatatvas, which has come from Maya, which is from Brahman. So there is again nothing else. There is nothing outside Brahman. Again, to go back to our example, we have seen how the spider weaves its web with its own saliva. The Brahman has created this world or manifested with its own force, and there is nothing else outside.
Excellent.
We'll stop here just to
let's listen to
I'm trying to explain it for the first time. It's not that easy to it kind of, when you read, it looks like you are getting it, but then when you try to explain, it's a lot more complex.
Yeah, the reason is, one is, like you rightly said, it is technical. There are some specific processes and elements that are there. Now, the reason why it feels challenging to explain is the process is not necessarily known in your common perception.
Yes.
Whereas so far what we reviewed is perceivable.
Yes, reasoning is easy.
Yeah. So that is the reason why here it is slightly more involved.
Yeah.
But anyway, what you've done so far is really nice. Let's listen to who wants to go next, Shubhaji or Padmaji?
Sir, I will speak next week because I don't have my material and I'm viewing from the phone. So it is very, very small, sir, for me. So I will speak next week.
All right. Okay. How about Shubhaji? Does Shubhaji want to add anything?
Uh, uh, as you said, it is way more technical. I'm trying to figure out where and all I saw all these in the video.
Yeah.
But only one question keeps coming to me is, if everything is a thought, like they say everything is thought, right?
Yeah.
It's all the appearance of Maya.
Yeah.
So is existence itself is a thought?
No. So what is appearing and disappearing is a thought, but the one who is aware, in whose awareness everything is appearing and disappearing, is not a thought. You are not a thought. In your presence, thoughts are appearing and disappearing. So the easiness is reality. That easiness is the existence. Sat. You are. Or, when I say in a first person, I am. That I am is not a thought. I don't have to think, am I there or not? Only if I think I am, then only I am. Otherwise, I am not. That is not the way, no. I am there is a fundamental. It is reality. It is not to be proven at all. I know it. I exist.
Okay, yeah, that is the Satya, but
Yeah.
everything around me is all thoughts. What is
Everything
happening around me?
Everything around me is appearing and disappearing as a element in the mind. So everything around me is continuously changing, and the change is perceived only in my mind as a thought. What do we mean by a thought? One is it is a sensory perception. So which means sensations. It's appearing and disappearing as a sensation. And that sensations can cause in my mind various kinds of thought processes. When I know that particular sensation, I may label it, oh, I'm seeing a rose. Oh, I am smelling a nice idli. It is because of the information that I already have gathered in my mind. If there is no information, it is a pure sensation. I don't process, I don't think about it, I don't analyze it. I just see it. It is coming for the first time, let's say. So in that way, the whole world is nothing but a thought process. As far as you are concerned, how do you know that there is a world out there? For a moment, in a very thought experiment way, imagine eyes are not functioning, ears are not functioning, nose are not functioning, like that one by one. If, let's say, the 5 sense organs are not functioning, what is the perception of the world? Is there a world out there? Is there even a world?
Yeah, there is no world.
So then what will be, for such a hypothetical being, for such a hypothetical person, if that person is not yet aware of the existential truth, then how that person will be only the content of the mind. That too, whatever is from the past. Now, how that manifests, what does it do? Maybe that manifests through karmendriyas. Maybe screaming, yelling, shouting. Nobody knows, but because there is no input, there's only output. And even if that karmendriyas are not functioning, then there is no way. So as far as that being is concerned, that being is alone. Is that making sense?
No, actually, yes, it is making sense, sir. But I'm looking at the things which are going around. Like, for example, the war going around.
Yeah.
If everything is a thought, why is it even happening is what goes in my mind when I go through this.
So, okay, frame the question properly. Your question is, there's a war going on, and what is your question?
My question is, if I am the only one, then all this war and all the sufferings around is just a thought of mine. Is that how it works?
Oh, okay, okay. This is going to the fundamental question. Okay, am I just thinking all these up? Is that your question?
Yeah. I know we have discussed it a lot of times, but this keeps coming to my mind. That's why.
Sure.
I know 100. I think 100th time we have discussed this.
That is okay. That is okay. Don't worry about it. Okay, so when it is said it is a thought, let's get the clarity. It is appearing in your mind. You know that there is right now you're hearing sound. I'm speaking. And how do you know I'm speaking? Because you're hearing through your ears. What is that you're hearing through your ears fundamentally? Let's say now you become a small baby. When you're a small baby, what is that you're hearing? You're hearing sounds. Some sounds are coming to you. There is no meaning attached to the sound. So there are two components of what you are hearing. There is a sensation, which is a pure sound, and there's a meaning, which is from your memory bank. Right now, if I switch to a language that you're not aware of, if I start speaking Russian, for example, I don't know how to speak Russian, but imagine I'm speaking Russian, all that I'm saying now will be total nonsense to you. I mean, you won't probably label it nonsense. You'll just be mesmerized by the sound patterns. That's all. It's like a dog barking. Dog also is saying something, but for you it's a bark. It's a sound. The wind also talks to you, but it's a sound. The bee also says something to you, but it's a sound to you. Why? There is no associated meaning. So what you are hearing has two components: pure sound and meaning. Like that for all the other four senses also. Pure sight and meaning. You see, a flower come in front of you, you label in your mind, rose. If that person happens to be, from some other language, rose may not be the thought appearing in their mind. In their mind, whatever their language equivalent name for that word, that flower. Water appears in front of you. You call it Neeru. And somebody else may call it as Tanni. So the meaning part depends upon what is already in the mind. So the meaning part is something that is given by the society to the particular mind. Society being people around, whatever has been taught, that is what is called as the conditioning of the mind. So the mind can perceive the sensation in a pure way, but then when the mind operators also adds its conditioning. Water from this lake is good. Water from this lake has to be filtered. This you should not touch. All these are conditioning. In the sensation, there is no such meaning. In the sound, there is no meaning. Right now, I am making sounds. As far as you are concerned, you are making up the meaning. Is that process, first of all, clear?
Yes, I understood that.
Yeah. When that process is clear, now let us examine what is happening and what do we mean by it's all a thought. Right now, there is a situation. And in that situation, you have become aware of something called as a war. Now that war, how have you become aware of the war? You've seen some news.
Yeah, through our senses.
Yeah. Small baby also sees the news. Small baby has no mental concepts about it. It is what is happening right now. It's simply what is happening right now. There is no mental concept. There is no mental churning of it.
Yeah.
So that's the only distinction between a realized and an unrealized being. Meaning what? It is the mental churning that adds to all the worries. So right now it is happening. What is that I need to do? The power of I is, if I feel, okay, this is not how it should be, then the prayer. Okay, may everybody feel their inner reality and may everybody be free. Otherwise, the mental churning is the one which causes all sorts of anxieties, worries.
Yeah.
So therefore, the jnana here is not at all to reject the world. The jnana here is to become free from the clutches of the knowledge of the world. It is the feeling that, ayo, what is happening? Ayo, so much of misery is happening. What is the use of all this knowledge? No. It is just to let you know that you are creating your reality in your mind. Based on how you process, based on how you see, you create your own inner reality. Because sensation is sensation. Like during the sensation meditation, you're watching the sensation come and go. For the one who is just watching it come and go, as a Sakshi, for that being, there is total freedom. Because the nature of the world is to continuously change. There won't be a war all the time. There won't be a famine all the time. There won't be a party all the time. Everything comes and goes. That is the nature of the world. So that is where the clarity helps you to be in total peace. And in the given moment, in the given circumstances, what is the right action? If the fight is in front of your door, what is the right response? If the fighting is outside of your door, outside of your building, what is your response? Somewhere out there in the border, what is your response? So like that, your response, in the feeling, your response is always the same. May all realize their true nature. May all be free from all this suffering. That is your true nature. That is why you feel why all of this suffering is happening. So that is your true nature. Your action is limited by your surroundings. At the door, your action is different. Outside your building, your action is different, so on and so forth. But your feeling, your inherent prayer, your inherent intention is the same. May all be happy, healthy, peaceful. But can it reflect in action? Can you go to that war field and then talk to them about all this? Maybe not. So that is where you send out a feeling of love and peace. So in that way, you are always at peace, irrespective of what is the circumstance, irrespective of what is happening. There is no rejection of what is happening. There is only clarity that what is happening is a continuous change appearing and disappearing in your mind, in your awareness. Is this bringing clarity?
Yes. Because I always had that guilt inside me. I do send prayers, but I always have that guilt inside me when I see suffering, that I'm not doing enough. So this really clears my.
Which I wouldn't label as guilt. That is why, that is an indication of your universal nature. Somewhere out there, somebody is suffering. You feel that heaviness is because it is you who is suffering there in another form. So that is the nature of this interconnectedness. So that is where Buddha says, when he got enlightened, he felt the pain and suffering of the whole world. I mean, it is not an ordinary statement. It is just a matter of, see, when your baby is suffering, you feel it so heavily. You know it. As a mother, you feel it the most. There is no physical wire that comes between the two of you. Now the baby is out of your stomach. There is no physical bond anymore. How is that you come to know? Because it's not at all a physical, I mean, in the sense of the physical world, it's not a connection in that way. Because deep down, it is one reality. There is one fabric. When one suffers, that wave reaches the entire consciousness, because it is all happening in the field of consciousness. And the field of consciousness, that is where your intent and your prayer and your healing powers also come into picture. In that consciousness, only all these powers are there. Which power manifests? Whichever power, let's say, that's why, that praying together for somebody's well-being. Padmaji may relate to this much better. When they are healing, when they are doing it together, the healing is much faster than if only one person has that intention. When all of us sit together and when we have a common intent, when we do group meditation, why we feel so easily, naturally at peace is because our common intentions are there. So like that, it is like multiple candles coming together into a dark room. Then suddenly it becomes more brighter, if only one, instead of only one candle coming. So that is how the manifestation happens in the world. So it is not a guilt. That is how it is. At this point of time, that feeling is there. You cannot see another being suffering. Deep down, that is your nature. That is why you rush to help somebody, not because it's a good thing to do, not because somebody has told you, be helpful to others. That is your inherent nature. Kindness is not a learned behavior. Compassion is not a learned behavior. Though in the society, it may appear so. Oh, there is no compassion at all. How, if they're compassionate, how can they be murdering each other? That is because the mind has been clouded by a lot of other societal information. Otherwise, deep down, everyone is a little child who really is compassionate. Not as a learned behavior, inherently.
Even however violent one person is, they always have a softer side, which may not show up outside. Whatever, even a person who is fighting at war, he may be the most softest guy when it comes to his mom or his family. So it is there. It is just that, like, they are assuming this role
So that
You-
story that has gone into him or her is what makes him or her behave the way he or she behaves.
yeah.
So therefore, as far as society is concerned, you will never see society at peace. That is not the point of our why we are contemplating here. You will not see, oh, the whole world has become peaceful. The nature of the world is continuous change, and change requires combination of tamo, rajo, and sattva guna. That is how world is. That is how world is. But you are at peace with the change that is happening. And depending upon the time and space and your particular role, you can carry out certain things in action, but in your feeling, you have the whole world within you. If you had been born in Mahabharata time, you would have, and if you were to be siding with Kauravas or Pandavas, you would have a certain feeling. If you are today a Russian or a Ukrainian, depending upon your own inclination, you may be a pro or an anti-war. But fundamental reality is that war hurts, war is a suffering at a individual level when you see. At a universal level, everything has a cause and effect, and it has to play out. So there is a overall karma that plays out in the society level.
At the end, it becomes a prarabdha that
Yeah,
those
so
jivas
why
are.
all of us are here in this time and space, in all the circumstances, it's the collective karma. So that is how it plays out. Shivaji, any other points that related to this? Is it bringing clarity or?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's bringing clarity. Yes, definitely. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So what is that? I think, the most important thing is what is that I can do in this situation?
Yeah.
One is your inherent peace is not a function of any of this.
That is very important.
You are always free. You are not bound by any of the happenings. That is the fundamental clarity. So when I use the word you, again, therefore, we have to be very, very clear. Not as a body and a mind. That is definitely subject to the changes. But you as a pure awareness, you are ever free. In your field of consciousness, all this drama is playing out.
Also, sir, I feel that if you are in a remote village where media is not at all there, you wouldn't even know what is happening outside your, certain limitations. You wouldn't know what is happening.
Correct.
For them, what is happening in the district itself will be a big thing because that will come to them through word of mouth or whatever. But, on a larger picture, the world or Ukraine or Russia wouldn't even matter to them. So,
Correct.
like you said, it is within our consciousness now. So we know and we are, trying to make sense of it.
Yeah.
And such fighting is going on in many places as well, even right now.
Yeah.
Correct. And
Even around us.
I was thinking that we must not even have felt so much when there was that Kargil war or something that we feel for Ukraine today because it is magnified so much.
Yeah.
Every day also we see suffering. No, you go on the road, you see a small child begging. You don't like to see all that.
Yeah.
Every day we see. It's not only the Ukraine part. You go out, you see suffering.
Yeah.
So that really affects you and you start feeling guilty. What am I doing? I'm doing nothing. Yeah, prayer,
So,
yes. Other than that, what am I doing?
Definitely. So that is where, Shubhaji, that noble feeling is important. One is, first of all, you sending out that prayer of healing and power to that being. See, when you see suffering, please don't think that, okay, if I just pray for that being, what is the big deal? Please realize you are that infinite. You are that which is creating that entire reality. You are creating the manifestation. Where you send your conscious energy and completely selfless feeling and intent, that manifests. So that's why these three gunas, can be realized in this way. What is happening if let's say there was totally a peace, okay, totally peace. Everybody felt at peace with everything. There is no change in the world. So the creative power of Brahman, of you, is because there is Rajo and there is Tamo also. Because of these, there is a continuous creation. So now, your particular intention of a selfless feeling of love and compassion to the other being, and your prayer, may everything go well. May the best happen for the inner evolution of that beggar, would be the right prayer to send. Because why somebody is begging? Because somebody in the mind has already decided that I am good for nothing. Is that the reality? No. You know very well that you are that infinite. So is the beggar. So the beggar has chosen to remain as a beggar. So it is not because of the circumstances, it is because of the choice made in the mind. We have seen so many videos, so many people, so many people around you. You yourself would have taken many decisions. Even though the situations are very demanding, you have brought out your inner capability. So may that manifest in that other being also. It can be the first level of prayer. And that is a very powerful prayer. Then, depending upon your own circumstances, because time is time and space, you cannot be in all places in as a physical reality. You cannot be everywhere. So you have to do actions in your own way. So choose what is the best action that you can do. That is where service comes into picture. What service you want to do in the world? Do you want to offer food? Do you want to offer donations? Do you want to offer education? What is that through which you can create in your own way a maximum impact? You please see, and then act. Because there is no way that you can be everywhere in all the times. Is it all making sense?
Yes, yes. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, yeah.
So, Vijay, there is a related talk I came across yesterday only.
Yeah.
The evening on what is perfection.
Yeah.
Prabhuji had posted it yesterday only.
Yeah.
There, he was talking about first of all, how do you define perfection? It's all about what you think, what you feel you want to see.
Yeah.
But then the actual life is something which is changing all the time.
Yeah.
And a change requires polarities.
Yeah.
Right. So all this constant life is all about these changes.
Yeah.
And when you get fixed on I want to see only this, not this.
Yeah.
That's where it starts.
Correct.
That's where the denial starts, and our own inner fight starts. Oh, why not this? But the reality, or the Jagat is something which is changing all the time, right? And what I think, coming back to this, it's about like, if you understand the nature of that Jagat, then like how to be at peace with that. If you try to without that knowledge, it leads to misery, because you are always wanting something, wanting to
Correct.
see, or like wanting not to see.
See, for example, let's just zone ourselves into just this moment, right now, here. So right now, this particular moment, Shubhaji, when you see from outside of your window, what do you see? You see light.
Yeah.
Is it something that you can change right now?
No.
Right now, the way I'm speaking, right now, the sound is coming to you. Can you change that? Right now, how much money you have in your bank? Can you change that?
No.
So right now, everything in this existence is the way it is, isn't it?
Yes.
Just because you have a feeling, oh, it should not be this way, will it ever change the reality of what it is right now?
No.
That is where the conflict is arising. This moment, I have fallen down and I've broken my wrist. Ayo, I shouldn't have broken my wrist. I have fallen down and I've broken my wrist. That is the reality at this point of time. I shouldn't have. Why? This is where the conflict arises in the mind. So does it mean that I'm powerless? Not in that way. I have to accept this moment as it is. That is the enlightened wisdom.
Most of the time we accept it, but sometimes it's like it goes back to the same old story of not accepting it.
Correct. So that is why again and again, we come back to Manana. Yeah. So what is that I can do about this current moment? Nothing. This current moment is the way it is. How many people are there in India right now? As many people as there. What is the current state of health of, let's say, your husband? Whatever, the way it is. Now, from here, intention is what shapes the future. This moment, there's absolutely nothing other than accepting it in its entirety is where your inner peace is. So to be in the current moment means this, that I have no resistance to what is coming. And when I offer no resistance, then I am flowing. But I can have an intention for the future. I put out an intention for the future. That is how reality gets created. It is like one big, wonderful movie that, in one sense, all these different intentions are shaping. So the collective consciousness of a particular region emerges as a conflict. The collective consciousness of a region emerges as such a wonderful community, service-oriented community. Is the collective consciousness that shapes, the world's realities. Is there any other statement or question coming around this topic, Shubhaji?
Sir, that's it. Thank you.
All right. Yeah. It's a heaviness. It's a heaviness. When someone is suffering, wherever they are, you get that feeling. As you become more and more sensitive to the life around you, even a dog suffering will affect you. Even a tree's suffering can affect you.
Yeah, true.
You care so much for the plants.
Yes.
When somebody just goes and abruptly breaks a plant, how does it feel?
Yeah, it feels bad.
On the Kanakpura road, there used to be such wonderful trees.
Yes, big trees. Yeah.
Do you think that cutting of all those is without any suffering? Each of those trees feel that, and you feel it too. It's how much sensitive you are to life around you.
Yeah. My husband keeps reminding me that yeah, what has to happen will happen. Why do you?
So it's a wonderful trait. So sensitivity versus suffering are two different things. So let's bring this clarity. Is there a difference between pain and suffering? Is there a difference between pain and suffering?
Yes.
What is it?
That on that instant, that what you come to know is the pain, but then like you can put it in memory and then like keep replaying it. Then like it continues.
Suffering is the continuity of pain.
Sir,
In
I
your
think
mind.
pain is the physical. Pain is what is manifested in the physical body.
Yeah.
Suffering is in the mind. Suffering is only of the mind.
Excellent. Correct. All of you are right. Pain is physical. Sensation. Nothing can be done about it. I have fallen, it is broken, and a sensation is appearing. That's the reality. Pain has to be accepted. That's the only way to be free. If I fight the pain, I am the fool. Suffering is self-inflicted pain. Suffering is repetition of that. So sensitivity, when we say sensitivity, someone is very sensitive to life, it means they can feel the pain of others as their own pain. Because in reality, there is no other. That is why you feel, which is an indication of your own universality. Nothing wrong with it. That is the reality. You feel it. But then, what is the suffering? Repetition of that in the mind. So that needs to be dropped. That is useless. So in this moment, I feel the pain. And now, what is the next step I need to take? In the best possible action, what is that? My action will contribute to evolution of this situation. And that depends upon what I want to do and what I'm capable of doing. There's an accident, somebody is fallen and blood is oozing. What I want to do, save the person. Am I a doctor? If I lift him, maybe I may cause more graver injuries. Am I the doctor? I'm not capable. So what is the right action? Call a doctor. Call an ambulance. Those who know first aid will help. So therefore, it's the response that is necessary, But what is the response? I need to be judicious, because this body and mind is not capable of acting as a doctor. So I have to see what is the right response to execute. Yes, Saravaji.
In some ways, it goes back to the universal question, which is like when Shubhaji said, why is this happening? Finally, it boils down to like, how would you like to see? Then the answer is like, I want them to be peaceful, and why? Right. So finally, that will lead to like, so that when I get up, I'll be happy. So now that my happiness is disturbed by the external thing. Okay, and that's what we are learning all this time, that happiness doesn't come or shouldn't come from outside, because the outside one keeps on changing. And the moment we start looking at the outside one seriously and get attached, then the suffering starts.
Yeah. So Sthita Pragnatva is not by fixing the outside reality, is by realizing my true nature.
Yeah, you can feel, but it should not disturb knowing what it is. And as you said, you can take you can act as per that situation. Yeah.
I mean, the feeling is wonderful, Shubhaji. The feeling is right. Response, please choose.
Yeah, true. You tend to be that Sthita Prajna person all the time, but sometimes it doesn't work. It goes haywire.
No, I think as for all of us, for instance, all these students who are going through this study,
my daughter's friend is stuck there.
Okay. Yeah, so that's why it is a very personal connection, and it becomes, see, that's where it said no. Let's say, as a how do you know what is the feeling of being a father? When you held the baby for the first time, you know what fatherhood is. It cannot be explained to another person. So what is the pain of a father? Only a father knows. There is no other way to explain that. So it is relatable, because it is so personal. It is a lot more relatable. The others may not relate it to as much as you do. So that's all to do with the sensitivity. That is perfectly fine.
Sorry to have gone off topic from this.
Not at all.
No,
Here we're talking about
Jagat.
how Jagat is all about thought in the mind. From there, your question is arising. If it's all thought in the mind, am I thinking of all this war? Is your question.
Yeah.
So again, you, as an individual who's connected to the body and the mind, am I thinking of all this? Why will I think of all this? Is not even the right understanding that this is trying to give to us. The clarity it is giving to us is that fundamentally everything is a sensation appearing or disappearing in the mind. That's all this particular topic is giving to us. It is not saying how this is being used. See, in any of this, in talk 57 or 58, Shankaracharya hasn't spoken about how Ravana is completely a Rajoguna, and how Ravana shouldn't have taken Sita, and why it was right for Rama to kill Ravana. None of that application of the science came. This is pure science. This is how it is. Whether you accept or don't accept, this is how it is. From here, how to apply it in my life, what is the realization from this, and how to apply it, from that standpoint, your question is very relevant. Because we are not merely, okay, I also know Panchabhutas. What are the Panchabhutas? I know the names. So that is not valuable. So your question is very relevant. All right. So is there anything else that Shubhaji would like to speak on this topic?
No, sir. Almost everything Saravanan has covered. That's what the same notes I have made too.
But like, if you try to explain in your own words, it will be very different.
Technically, I'm not a technical person, Saravanan. I'm more a
yeah.
so explaining technically is not my forte.
Okay, let's then, let's is the clarity about how world is a thought. Are there any questions on that? How do you, if you were to say it out, Padmaji, how will you say it?
Sir, you're talking about how the world is coming up, that one, or to what the discussion was right now?
Okay, so the discussion is done. Now the question is, when it is said that world is nothing but a thought, can you say that out in your way? How will you? What examples will you give? How will you? What is your understanding of that?
Yeah. Okay. So how I understand is, yes, the world is in our thought, in the sense that we have certain conditionings and all the whatever we carry forward from many lifetimes. I think many of it is also based on that. For example, for us, say we have been taught that war is not good, but if we look at a soldier's family and how they deal with it, not only the soldier but the his parents or his wife or his children, they are very proud of the fact that he is a soldier. And like you have previously pointed out, any soldier, whether it is the Pakistani side or our side, the duty for him is to kill his enemy. That's all. But again, for us, he will be a very brave warrior if he is fought for our country, and we will even give him medals and all to honor his, courage. But on the other side, if he has killed some other family, maybe that family might even be, cursing him, say, whoever destroyed my son, may he not live well or whatever. They might be sending out some, not so positive feelings for him. Similarly, for us also, it is like that, I feel. So what I think is, essentially, like all the three gunas make up what we think. Like if I have gone on to other videos, and if you go on further, Prabhuji will talk about, like you just mentioned, he talks about Vibhishana and how which guna in them is most manifested more and how they behave accordingly. In that, what caught my attention was when Guruji says that Vibhishana is somebody who is of Sattva Guna. But even that is not enough. You have to transcend even that. Because sometimes you think that Sattvika Guna is very good and you get stuck there. I think that is where, all of us initially we try to become more and more Sattva. And then, probably we get stuck there also. So we have to transcend even that, is what Guruji says. So that is something like, more questions are coming to me related to that. Like, how do you transcend even being Sattva? Because when it is said in all these videos, that essentially now it boils down to the where the three gunas are within anybody or even within the world or anybody, anything outside us or inside us. It is all the way the three gunas are arranged. Depending on that, the behavior or whatever is coming out, whether it is for an animal or for us or even between us or within the family itself, we have various gunas. At various times, these gunas come and go also. So I feel that how do you transcend then the sattva guna? That means we have to come to that equilibrium state where nothing was there before the Maya Shakti came into play of Brahman, right? So that was something. Yeah, then I figured out that okay, that means it is basically what, going back to our own true self, because that is where the equilibrium is. Where else and how else to transcend? It is not something outside us which we can, achieve. So that is one of the thing. Also, I felt that where he showed us, Guruji has told that, the more you meditate, or probably in any scriptures, it is always said that the more we meditate, the more we get closer to our own self, because in the silence only we can find whatever that we want to see or find for ourselves. That is one of the things. Also, when we talk about the thoughts of the world, if I take my personal experience, from what I was like 5-6 years before to now, after especially getting this starting beginning as a healer, I think a lot of things have changed, because now as a healer I understand that, see, there are many people whom we don't know except for their age, name, and probably the name, from the name of the city or the state that they come from, and what is their problem, physical problem, we come to know. That's all we come to know. We have never seen those people. But like sir said, when we said group healings, in each group there are about 50 to 60 people. So, and we have to send definitely healings every day. So when we do that, I am just thinking like the power of prayer and healings are so powerful that it is transcending to that person. And I have witnessed, like, there are people, like normally we believe that cancer cannot be treated, people don't recover from certain diseases. But when you see them, it is not only the healer's belief and their intentions that matter, also of that person itself, that I can heal. This is not something life threatening, because that is where the resistance comes. Like some people, when they get cancer, they might just believe after hearing the diagnosis itself that okay, this is the end of the world for me. Oh no, I got cancer and it cannot be cured. But I have seen how people have recovered, because they always believed that this is not something which is going to stop me, or there is some inner belief and faith in them that it can be cured. And that, coupled with the prayers and healing sent by so many people, it manifests and it shows us these miracles. So essentially the miracle is within us only, is what I have figured out now slowly. So, and also one more thing that is essential in healing, what we learned, what we are taught, or made to be understand, that everything first is just there, lying there. For example, it is, you have an aura, suppose. So in the aura, it is just there. It is like what you give attention to becomes bigger and bigger and manifests. So essentially it is just a thought that you are picking up from that aura. It is all like an idea which is there, which you are picking up, and then you keep repeating it to yourself, over and over again, over probably many lifetimes also you might be repeating without even being aware. So I think that is when all these things manifest. For example, there are people who have thyroid problems. Okay, so when they have thyroid problems, now when we go to a Western medicine or allopathic, they will just give medicine for that the thyroid gland to function properly, whatever is the this thing. But if we go at a deeper level, at various levels, we understand that basically people who have thyroid have at some point, they have not been able to express themselves very well, or they have, they have been restricted in many ways by a person who could be of higher authority, say at home. For example, if it is a child, then the parents or one of the parent could be authoritative, or if it is a school or a workplace, it could be your superior who is not letting you express yourself. So these kind of things then start creating blocks first in that aura, and then it comes to that particular chakra, and then it manifests in the physical body. So there are various levels to that illness. It is just not manifesting in one day, and that is why probably it takes many years also for it to rectify, because the basic thought process has to change there. So that is something beautiful. We come to know that how powerful are your thoughts. That is why, when this great masters, everybody tells only to mind your thoughts. There is no other advice, very big from them. It is always mind your thoughts, what comes to your thoughts. And for that, meditation helps, I think, because your mind is not easy to control. It is just going everywhere. So best thing to calm down your mind is meditation, because when you're in meditation and you practice it continuously every day, you make a conscious effort, then I think over a period of time, these thoughts all rest. So when you happen to have a thought that is negative or not very positive, you can always go to that mode. You can consciously switch to that mode and, be in that restful state. That's all, sir.
Wonderfully said, Padmaji. Very nice. See, Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasa applies even in this case. What you're manifesting is what you've been doing the Manana. You've heard somewhere. So the idea, the seed has come from Shravana, and that Manana is what causes manifestation. I'll give you one very personal, simple example. This must be when I was in the 6th grade or the 7th grade. I don't remember exactly. I saw that, my father was hospitalized. He had some kind of a stomach problem, and there was a tube, through which, they were draining something. And the very next week, I started complaining of stomach ache. My mother took me to all doctors. Even after a week, it didn't heal. Then they took me to the JSS hospital where my father was admitted. So as I recall now, I remember playing in my mind over and over again that I have a similar issue and I need to be admitted. The doctor could not recognize what the heck the problem with me is. So there is a wonderful story from a great master. So somebody came to him and said that I'm suffering a lot. What is your problem? There is a small mosquito that has entered my stomach, and it is there. It keeps on doing that sound many times. I haven't been able to catch it. And people around said to the master, we have taken him to so many doctors. He has become crazy. The master looked at him intently and said, no, he's not at all crazy. I can help you, but will you listen to what I say? This person for the first time was very happy. Will my problem go away? Yeah, it will go away. So he said, okay, come. So he took him to a room, and he asked his assistant also to come into the room. And he asked him to close all the window curtains and everything. And he said, lie down here. I will have to do a very important, it's a practice, but please close your eyes. And he touched all his stomach. I know where it is. So you now relax. I will help you. So just close your eyes. Then he sent his assistant and asked him to catch one mosquito and bring it in the plate. And after some time, he asked him to open. And he said, it was not at all very easy. But after a lot of struggle, I found this is what was there in your stomach. And he showed him. Such a big one. That's why you are suffering so much. And miraculously, from that day, the going stopped. So our mind is mighty powerful. What I pay attention to, like Padmaji said, grows. What I pay attention to becomes my reality. Because reality is a 360 degree. It's a whole. In that whole, attention means what? I am zooming into something. I am paying attention to that. Which idea I am paying attention to? Which idea is my manana nididhyasa? That idea takes deep root in me. When somebody becomes a doctor, it is not that today they got the certificate and they became a doctor. The seed of the doctor was sown in that consciousness long back. Today it is manifesting as a degree. So everything is a seed. Somewhere, somehow, that seed has come into your consciousness and you have chosen to accept it as your reality. This is how come among all the 100 professions, somebody likes being a driver, being a doctor, being a cook, being an engineer. So it's a 360 degree choice. And what I choose, and I hold on, Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasa. That takes a deep root in me. So again and again, until our inner stability comes. That's why the Guru says, do the Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasa on the enlightened words. By that, what is meant is the ones which are of the nature of the truth. Not to reject the world, but to accept the world as is. And then the whole divine play will appear. Krishna was right there in the Mahabharata. Right in front of him, millions got slaughtered. So, as a God, very compassion, the source of compassion, how can slaughtering be allowed? Because I am interpreting slaughtering as a human. I'm looking at death as a human. For me, there is a window, birth and death. So therefore, in that framework, I'm interpreting everything. Like the story of Narada, the greatness of Narayana Pada. So the small b, as soon as he uttered, you remember that story, Shubhaji?
Which ones specifically?
The Narada and Narayana story.
Yeah. I do that now. Even to kill a cockroach, I use that now.
No, but seriously, it's a wonderful thing. So
Actually, I'm out of guilt after using that. I'm using even to kill a cockroach. I use that so that I am not guilty of killing it. Being.
So you see, we don't know what is evolving to what. So therefore, there is no need to be carrying that feeling of guilt. Wonderfully said.
That story actually helped me a lot.
What
Get
is
out
the
of my
story?
guilt every day.
Shubhaji, go ahead and please narrate that story. Saravanan is asking.
Narada was saying that Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, if you say or take the name of Narayana, it's a great name. The same story you're talking about, no, sir?
Yeah, good, yeah.
So Narada goes and tells a person, Kita, right?
Yeah, he starts with the Kita.
Yeah.
He goes to Narayana first and asks, what is the greatness of this name? Then he says, go and say that to that Kita.
Yeah. Sir, you go ahead, sir.
No, you please narrate. You are doing well. Yeah, I just wanted to fill that gap. He begins from Narayana.
So he goes and says the name of Narayana to the Kita, and the Kita dies. And then he goes to one more person and says the name, that person also dies. So Narada gets scared. What is this? Whenever I say the name of Narayana, everybody is getting killed or they die. Then after some time, he goes to a place wherein that person comes running and says to Narada, do you remember me? I am that Kita. I got mukti. So this is how the story goes. So the power of Narayana is that we get mukti. So that is what I am doing right now. To kill a cockroach, I use that so that it gets mukti and gets a better life. And I am also free of guilt.
Yeah. See,
On similar lines, no, sir, there is a story of this Jaya Vijaya. They are standing outside this Vaikunta, no, guarding the gates.
Yeah.
They are great devotees of Vishnu. So once this Shukracharya will come to meet Vishnu, and these two will not let him in. So they will, because he would have ordered that don't let anybody in. So they will stop this Shukracharya, and the Shukracharya becomes enraged and he curses both of them that, you know what, you are going to, you can never be this one, and then he will curse them into turn into some other being, and it will take you many lifetimes and all this. Then these people will fall at the Guru's feet and ask for forgiveness that, we didn't purposefully do this and all that. And then Shukracharya will say that there are two ways to, redeem yourself and get this form back. One is you go to Bhuloka and, you have so many lifetimes and so many years you have to be and then come back here. Or another one is you become Rakshasas. And then you will get mukti easily from Vishnu's hands. So these two, just to come back early, they will say that, I will take the form of a Rakshasa. And then it is said that they become the Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. They take birth as them. And then, we all know the story how, Narasimha Avtaram was the one that killed, and freed both these two. So, there is we don't know who is coming as what in which lifetime, but he knows.
Yeah,
similarly, there will be one story in that Sai Satcharita, which I read, where one day Baba will be just going with all his followers, and there will be one man who is tending to goats, and he will be bringing the group of goats will be coming. Out of that, Baba will choose 2 goats and he will say, I want to buy these 2 goats. And then and then in those days, goats would have been very cheap, and then he buys them for 16 rupees or something. And then all his the people around him are shocked. Oh my God, for the 2 goats you paid 16 rupees and got them like that. They will be questioning him. And then he will suddenly say that, these are 2 people from so and so birth. I know them. They were my devotees. And in this lifetime, they were as goats. And when they saw them, I felt so much compassion and pity in my heart that I just wanted to, give them some food. So he buys them for 16 rupees, then he will feed them, and then he will send them back to that same group. So like that, there will be a couple of stories in Satcharita where, they take different life forms as frogs and snakes and come back again. But in some cases, if they have died with that enmity, they will have that same kind of thing. For example, this frog and snake that I am mentioning, they both will be human beings, and there will be a dispute between them for a temple and a land and all that, and they will die killing each other. So the next lifetime also they take form in a form where they are sworn enemies, like snake and frog. And then again he will come, and then actually that frog guy he will be Baba's devotee, so he will say that you have to come and rescue me whenever it is. So now this frog is croaking, and Baba is sitting there somewhere near the tree, and when he hears that croaking, he will say that, oh, you are here, I remember what I promised to you to save you. And then the snake comes to eat, and it's that same guy. And then Baba will go, and he will talk to them addressing with that same name, saying that, oh, so still you haven't forgotten your enmity. Even now, you want to kill each other in this birth also. And then the snake will go off. And that is the way he would save that frog, because he had promised him in that lifetime that whenever, you are in difficulties, I will come and save you. So this sort of thing, when you hear, you think, what, how many births did we take and what all we were born as? He only knows.
So connected to this, there is you may know about regression therapy, where people can be taken into past memories.
What, Prati?
Regression.
Yeah, past life regression. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it can be within this life certain hidden memories, as well as beyond the current life form. Yeah. So there is one regression therapist who has written a book called Many Lives, Many Masters. It's a very famous book. You can find about it. So like what Padmaji said, in one form, in one lifetime, who was a master who used to beat his servant, now in the current, the roles have reversed. So the master is the servant now, servant is the master now. So this is an endless cycle until one of them realizes that I can come out of this. See, that is why forgiveness is the true healing for guilt. Serving others is the true healing for our inner whatever shortcomings. So these two approaches, learn to forgive, learning to seek forgiveness, serving others selflessly. Simple, but the most profound ways to elevate whatever the feelings of gap in the mind is. Nice stories, Padmaji.
And sir, I think that forgiving is more important for our own healing.
Yeah.
We always think that forgiving is about, some other person, we have to forgive him. So, we think that we are becoming magnanimous by forgiving somebody. But I think that is not at all true, because the other person may not even be knowing, or he would have done it and he would have moved on with his life.
Yeah.
Like I remember once you mentioned about one thing, where neighbor has caused something and the neighbor is peacefully there, and this person carries it whole day around, his whole day spoiled.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So I feel that forgiving is more essential for us to heal, rather than because we are the ones who is carrying that in our mind, that feeling, that sensations, all that is negative. We are the ones that are carrying it on.
Yeah.
It goes back to that point. World is the thought. That's gone, but the thought is what.
Yeah.
You keep playing
And
it.
somewhere I read, Saravanan-ji, that if you are experiencing, say there is somebody who's constantly irritating you, or rather you are getting irritated by that person, he may not be doing much, compared to some things that you have gone through with other people, but it will be very irritating and constantly disturbing you.
Yes.
In such cases, in our this Reiki also, they say that you sit and forgive, consciously forgive that person every day, and you ask for forgiveness that whatever I have done to you in this lifetime or any other lifetime, please forgive me. And what I am experiencing today because of you, I forgive you for that, because that is happening in the present. And maybe you have an interaction with that person in the past, not only in this lifetime, maybe in previous lifetime, because of which they have come into this life like this, in this way. And you may not know the reason why you are getting disturbed. For example, I feel that after attending all these classes, I have started examining some people like that, who like who are in relationship with me or come in contact with me only with this kind of thing, where I am the one who's feeling like that. So then, it helps when I say that, please forgive me for whatever I did to you in the past, knowingly or unknowingly. And then, I forgive you for what you are doing to me in the present. Let it be, let it go, that kind of thing. So I think more than the physical level, it is a deeper connection with the soul level, where you take some forms and come down.
So this is what is said as the mind, no, has two parts, the conscious part and the subconscious. The subconscious is where all the impressions are. So when you say it's a soul level connection, Padmaji, just to give clarity to that, the mind has deeper levels. In the deepest level, which is not consciously available, these feelings are hidden.
Yeah,
That's why when
correct.
you sit in silence, as you keep on deepening your sitting in silence for a longer and longer time, especially if you sit for see, there are two general timings, about 20 minutes and about say 40 minutes plus. 20 minutes is kind of helps the conscious part of the mind to rest. When you go deeper, no, if you sit for 40 minutes and 50 minutes, you will start seeing many other kinds of sensations start bubbling up.
Yeah,
Especially if you
yes,
sit
sir.
for, go ahead.
In that Guruji's Nididhyasa and all, no,
Yeah,
it happens like that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
But I also found relief only in that, sir. I got
Exactly.
truly relieved in only in those meditation sessions. I was doing it for a long time. I used to tell you, it used to be a practice 15 to 20 minutes, but I have not found this kind of, inner peace in any other timing. That 40
Correct.
minutes or minimum 30 to 35 minutes is essential.
Correct. Because only when you go deeper, no, latent, whatever the deeper hidden impressions, they start bubbling up. And when you are just witnessing them, that is when you become detached from them. You find the freedom. So it's very important as a practice to do both. To begin with the 20, so that you get a practice and deepen that. So in that, there is a complete healing. All right. Shall we conclude our today's contemplation?
Yes, sir.
So Shubhaji, if you have to summarize our today's discussion, what would it be?
I would say one sentence, I'm not able to get anything as such.
No problem. Even if it is 2 sentences, it's okay. But what is your summary of today's overall discussion?
Sir, you were asking me, right?
Shubhaji.
Okay. No, my connection got disturbed.
Okay.
All I can say is to be in the present and not get affected with the what is it? Things around us.
Very nice.
But that that thought keeps coming that we should not get disturbed about what is happening around us and be in the moment.
Yeah.
But sometimes it just gets strayed and gets back to the thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we should keep practicing that. Yeah, be in the present. Be in the present.
You're an excellent observer of the essence, Shubhaji. That's why you speak less, but you put out the best sentences. Very nice. Very well put. So with that feeling that, may all find that inner peace, let's end our today's session.
Yes. Om Asatoma Sadgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, lead me from untruth, ignorance to truth, darkness to light, impermanence, death to permanence, immortality. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, that is complete. This is complete. When completeness is removed from completeness, what remains is complete. When completeness is added to completeness, totality remains complete. Om, peace, peace, peace. Nanu, nanembudu, nanalla, ee deha, manabuddhi, nanalla, Satchidanandatma, Shivananu Nane, Shivoham, Shivoham, Shivoham. I am not the body, mind, intellect. I am pure consciousness, Shivaswarup. Atmadarshanam, Brahmadarshanam, Brahmadarshanam, Satyadarshanam. Recognition of self is recognition of the whole. Recognition of the whole is the truth. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanat Mrityor Mukshiyamamrithat. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanat Mrityor Mukshiyamamrithat. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanat Mrityor Mukshiyamamrithat. We worship the three-eyed one who is fragrant and who nourishes all, like the fruit falls off from the bondage of the stem. May we be liberated from death, from mortality. Lokaha samastaha sukhino bhavantu. Lokaha samastaha sukhino bhavantu. Lokaha samastaha sukhino bhavantu. May all beings be happy, healthy, and peaceful. Hari Om Tat Sat. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Shubhaji.
Hari Om, sir. Hari Om,
Hari Om.
everyone.
Hari Om all.
Thank
Hari Om.
you.
Hari Om.